Tom washed the last pan and set it on the shelf, listening to the rain tapping the metal roof of his small food shop. The sign outside still glowed, but the street had become empty. Most evenings were like this now. A few tired workers came in, ate fast, and left. Then it was only Tom and his son. Tom wiped the counter slowly, not because it was dirty, but because the quiet felt heavy if he stopped moving. He had learned to keep his hands busy, so his mind would not wander to places that hurt. Leo sat at the corner table with his school bag beside him. He was 8 years old, small for his age, with careful eyes that noticed everything. He did his homework while Tom cleaned, and sometimes he hummed softly like he was trying to make the room feel less empty. Tom watched him and felt two feelings at once. He was proud of his son, and he was also sorry that Leo had to grow up so fast. Tom never said that out loud. He feared that if he spoke about the missing parts of their life, the sadness would come rushing in like floodwater. Tom had not planned to eat dinner at the shop, but rent was due soon and he had stopped wasting anything. He cooked a simple meal in the back, warm rice and chicken with a little soup. He placed 2 plates on the small table by the window. Leo put his pencil down and sat straight, as if dinner was a serious job. Tom smiled at that. Leo always tried to help. Leo always tried to make things easier. They ate quietly at first. The rain made a soft sound outside, and the window glass fogged from the heat of the food. Tom chewed slowly and stared at the road. He remembered when the shop used to feel loud. Years ago there was laughter, music on the radio, and a second pair of hands in the kitchen. Now Tom did not keep the radio on. It reminded him of how silence used to be rare and happy. These days silence felt like a long hallway that never ended. Leo looked at his father and spoke gently. "Dad, you tired?" It was not a question. Leo could tell by the way Tom's shoulders stayed tight and the way his eyes kept dropping to the floor. Tom tried to brush it away. "Just a long day," he said. "Tomorrow will be easier." He said that often, not because it was always true, but because he wanted Leo to believe life could still be kind. Leo nodded and went back to eating. He did not push for more. He had learned when to stay quiet, and that made Tom feel both thankful and sad. A child should not need to understand grown-up pain. But Leo did. Tom had just finished his soup when he heard the bell above the door ring. It was a small sound, but it cut through the quiet like a light turning on. Tom glanced at the clock. It was late. He almost stood to tell the customer they were closing, but then he saw who entered. A woman stepped inside, holding the hand of a young boy. Both of them were wet from the rain. The woman's hair clung to her face, and her jacket looked thin for this weather. The boy's shoes made small watermarks on the floor. He held his stomach with his free hand, and his eyes stayed fixed on the counter where the smell of warm food still floated in the air. The woman paused near the door, as if she expected to be pushed out. Her voice was quiet, careful, like someone who had asked strangers for help before and been hurt by the answer. "I'm sorry," she said. "My son is hungry. Can we stay a while?" Her words were simple, but the way she said them carried something deeper. It carried worry, and it carried a kind of shame she did not deserve. Tom looked at her face and then at the boy. He saw how thin the child's cheeks were. He saw how the woman held herself like she was protecting her son from the world. Tom felt a strange pull in his chest, like a memory rising up. For a moment he remembered what it was like to feel helpless, to be afraid of the next day, to carry love and fear at the same time. Leo stood up before Tom could speak. He gave the boy a small smile, the kind that did not ask questions. Tom noticed that Leo did not stare at their wet clothes or their tired faces. He only looked at the boy's eyes, like he was already choosing to be kind. That small act touched Tom more than any big speech could. Tom cleared his throat and nodded. "Yes," he said. "Come in. Sit down. You're out of the rain now." The woman's shoulders dropped a little, like she had been holding her breath for miles. She guided her son to a table near the wall. The boy sat quickly, still watching the counter. Tom walked to the kitchen without asking for money first. He did not want the woman to feel like she had to prove anything. He made a warm plate, the same meal he and Leo had just eaten, and added extra soup. He also poured hot tea into a cup, because rain like this could bring a cold by morning. When he returned, the woman looked at the food like it was something precious. "I can pay," she said fast. "Not much, but I can pay a little." Her hands moved toward her bag, and her eyes searched Tom's face, expecting anger or judgment. Tom shook his head. "Let him eat," he said. "We can talk later." He kept his voice calm, the way he spoke to Leo when Leo had nightmares. The woman blinked hard, then nodded. The boy started eating right away, careful at first, then faster as the warmth reached him. His face changed with every bite. Color returned to his cheeks. His shoulders relaxed. The woman watched him with a mixture of relief and pain, as if she had been carrying guilt for something she could not control. Tom wanted to tell her that hunger was not a shameful thing, that struggling did not mean she was failing. But he did not know her story yet, and he did not want to push. Leo walked over slowly and stood near the table. "Hi," he said. "I'm Leo." The boy looked up, mouth full, and swallowed quickly. "Ben," he replied. His voice was small but steady. Leo nodded like that was enough. "You like soup?" Leo asked. Ben's eyes brightened. "Yes," he said. "It's warm." Leo smiled wider. "We have more," he said, and Ben looked relieved, like he had been worried the warmth would end too soon. The woman finally spoke again. "My name is Nina," she said, keeping her voice low. "Thank you. I didn't know where else to go." The buses stopped, and the rain got worse. Tom nodded, listening without interrupting. Nina's hands were wrapped around the teacup, and her fingers trembled slightly. She was trying to look strong, but her tiredness showed in the small lines around her eyes. Tom leaned on the chair across from her, not sitting fully, just staying nearby like a guard who would not leave. "You can stay until the rain slows," he said. "No rush." Nina's eyes filled with tears, but she looked away quickly as if tears were something she was not allowed to show. She whispered, "You don't know what this means." Tom did not answer with big words. He only said, "I know what it's like to be trying your best." He surprised himself with that sentence. He rarely talked about his own life to strangers. But something about Nina's face and Ben's hunger opened a quiet door inside him. At the other table, Leo and Ben began talking about school and favorite foods. Leo showed Ben a small drawing he had made in his notebook. Ben smiled for real, the first easy smile of the evening. The sound of children talking filled the shop like soft music. Tom realized he had not heard that sound in a long time. The rain continued outside, steady and cold, but inside the shop, warmth spread in a different way. It was not only the heat of the soup. It was the feeling that maybe life could still surprise him. Tom had believed he would eat alone forever, even with his son beside him. He had believed the space in his heart would stay empty and quiet. But as he watched Leo laugh softly and as he saw Nina's shoulders finally relax, Tom felt something shift. That night did not fix everything. Tom knew that. But it placed a small light in the dark hallway he had been walking through for years. And for the first time in a long time, he did not feel like he was walking alone. The rain stayed heavy outside and the small food shop felt like a safe island in the middle of a gray world. Tom stood behind the counter and watched Nina and her son Ben while Leo sat with them. The three of them looked like they had known each other for a long time, even though they had just met. Tom felt a strange calm inside his chest, and he did not want this moment to end. Ben kept eating slowly now, as if he did not want to finish the warm food too fast. Leo talked about his school and how he liked drawing small houses and trees. Ben listened closely and nodded with interest. Nina watched the boys with a soft smile that made her look younger. For a short time she forgot the rain and the long road they had walked. Tom brought more tea and placed it on the table. Nina looked up and thanked him again. Her voice was gentle and filled with tiredness. Tom told her she did not need to thank him. He said sometimes people just need a warm place to rest. Nina finally started to speak about her day. She said she and Ben had moved to the town only a few weeks ago. They had been staying in a small room near the bus station. She had been looking for work, but nothing had come yet. Most places wanted people with long records and she had none. Every day she tried and every day she came back with empty hands. Tom listened without cutting her words. He knew how hard it was to keep hope alive when the world kept closing doors. He had felt that many times after Leo's mother was gone. The shop had been the only thing that kept them going. Even when money was low, Tom had kept the doors open. Leo looked at Nina and asked in his quiet voice if Ben went to school. Nina nodded and said he did, but sometimes it was hard to buy everything he needed. Ben looked down at the table and played with his spoon. Leo did not ask more because he could feel the weight of the answer. Tom felt something inside him move again. He remembered days when Leo needed new shoes and he had counted every coin. He remembered the fear of not being able to give his child what he deserved. Looking at Ben, he saw the same worry in Nina's eyes. The rain slowly became lighter and the sound on the roof changed. Nina looked at the door and then back at her son. She knew they could not stay forever. Her shoulders became tense again. Tom saw it and spoke before she could stand. "You can stay a little longer," he said. "There is no hurry tonight." Nina looked surprised. She had expected to be asked to leave as soon as the food was done. Her eyes filled with quiet thanks. Leo and Ben kept talking and soon they were laughing softly. The shop felt alive in a way Tom had not felt in a long time. It reminded him of when Leo's mother used to stand behind the counter and smile at customers. That memory used to bring pain, but now it brought warmth. Nina noticed the old photo on the wall behind the counter. It showed Tom with a woman and a small baby. She looked at it with care and then at Tom. Tom followed her eyes and knew what she was thinking. "That was Leo's mother," he said. "She was kind and loved this shop." Nina nodded and said she could see that. She said Tom was strong to keep going. Tom answered that he had no choice when a child was counting on him. Nina looked down and held Ben's hand. She said she felt the same. The rain finally stopped and the street outside became quiet again. The lights from the shop shone on the wet road. Nina knew it was time to go. She stood slowly and helped Ben put on his jacket. Tom walked with them to the door. He did not want to say goodbye. Something inside him wanted them to come back. Before Nina stepped out, Tom spoke. "Come back tomorrow," he said. "I always make warm food in the evening." Nina looked at him with wide eyes. She did not expect an invitation. Her lips formed a small smile. "We will," she said. Ben waved at Leo. Leo waved back with a big grin. Tom watched them walk into the quiet street. The shop felt empty again, but not in the same way as before. There was now a feeling of waiting. That night Tom and Leo went home. Leo talked about Ben all the way. He said he hoped Ben would come again. Tom listened and smiled. As Tom lay in bed, he thought about Nina and her tired eyes. He thought about Ben and how he held his stomach when he came in. Tom did not know what the future would bring. But for the first time in many years he felt that maybe new stories were waiting to be written. And that made him feel less alone. The next day the sky was clear and the town felt fresh after the long rain. Tom opened the shop early and cleaned every table with more care than usual. He did not know why, but he kept looking at the door as if he expected someone to walk in. Leo noticed this and smiled to himself. He also hoped Ben and Nina would return. By evening the street outside was busy again. People walked past the shop and some came in for food. Tom worked with steady hands and Leo helped like always. But both of them kept glancing toward the door. When the bell finally rang, Tom felt his heart move. Nina and Ben stepped inside. They looked cleaner and brighter than the night before. Ben was holding a small bag and Nina had a hopeful look in her eyes. Leo ran to Ben and they started talking right away. The shop filled with soft laughter. Tom welcomed them with a warm smile. Nina said she had found a small job cleaning rooms in a hotel. It was not much, but it was something. Tom felt happy for her and told her that was a good start. Nina said she felt stronger today because someone had shown her kindness. Ben sat down and pulled out a small drawing from his bag. It was a picture of the shop with 4 people inside. Tom saw himself, Leo, Nina, and Ben in the drawing. His chest felt tight with emotion. Ben said this place made him feel safe. Tom went to the kitchen and made food for everyone. This time they all sat at the same table. The air felt warm and friendly. Nina talked about the hotel job and how she hoped to find something better soon. Tom shared small stories about the shop and how he built it little by little. Leo and Ben talked about their dreams. Leo wanted to draw big pictures. Ben said he wanted to help people when he grew up. Nina listened with a proud smile. Tom felt something inside him heal slowly. A man from the town came into the shop and looked around. He asked Tom if he knew anyone who needed work. The man owned a small store nearby. Tom looked at Nina and saw her eyes fill with hope. He told the man about her. The man said she could come the next morning. Nina could not believe it. She thanked Tom again and again. Tom told her sometimes good things happen when people are kind. Nina said she would never forget this moment. That evening they stayed together for a long time. The shop felt like a home. Tom knew his life was changing. Not because of money or success, but because of the people sitting around him. When Nina and Ben left that night, the stars were shining. Leo waved until they were out of sight. Tom felt peace in his heart. The story was far from over. But hope was now part of it. Days passed and the small food shop slowly became a place of warmth and smiles. Nina started working at the small store each morning, and Ben went to school with new energy. Every evening they came to the shop and sat with Tom and Leo. The 4 of them shared food and stories. The room felt full even when only a few customers were there. Tom noticed how Leo laughed more now. The quiet sadness that once followed him had faded. Ben brought light into his life. The 2 boys played and talked like they had always been friends. Tom and Nina watched them with soft smiles. Nina told Tom about her past one evening. She said life had been hard, but she never stopped trying for her son. Tom understood that. He shared how he raised Leo alone. They did not speak of pain in deep detail, but they both felt the truth behind each word. One night a storm hit the town again. The wind was strong and the rain fell hard. Nina and Ben were late. Tom felt worry in his chest. He kept looking at the door. Leo sat quietly waiting. When they finally arrived, they were wet and cold. Tom rushed to give them warm food and tea. Nina said the store had closed late and the buses were slow. Tom felt relief that they were safe. That night Nina said something that surprised Tom. She said she and Ben were going to move into a small room near the store. It would be easier for work and school. Tom felt happy for them. He knew their lives were becoming steady. The boys were happy too. They talked about walking to school together. The future felt bright. Tom realized that this family was growing. Not by blood but by care and trust. The shop was no longer just a place to eat. It was a place where hearts found peace. The morning sun rose over the small town and light touched the windows of the food shop. Tom opened the door and breathed in the cool air. For the first time in many years he felt calm. The world outside still had problems, but his heart felt steady. Nina and Ben soon walked in. Ben waved at Leo, who was sweeping the floor. The boys laughed and started talking about school. Nina helped Tom prepare food. The shop felt like a family kitchen. Tom watched Nina work and saw how strong she was. She moved with care and confidence. She was no longer the tired woman who had stepped in from the rain. She was building a new life for her and her son. Later that day, a group of people came into the shop. They liked the food and the warm feeling. Tom saw more smiles and heard more laughter. The shop was becoming popular. It was not because of the food alone but because of the love inside. Leo and Ben sat at a table drawing. They planned to make a big picture of the shop. They said it would show how kindness can change lives. Tom and Nina listened and felt proud. That evening they all sat together and shared a meal. Tom looked at Nina and felt gratitude. He had thought he would always eat alone with only his son. But now the table was full. Nina thanked Tom for opening his heart. Tom thanked Nina for bringing new light. They did not speak of love, but they both felt it growing. The rain that had once brought fear had now brought hope. Two families had met and become one. The future was unknown but it was bright. And in a small shop by the road 4 hearts beat together in peace.